If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, but let's get right to it. So I went and saw a matinee of The Call of the Wild, and I have to say, I really enjoyed the film. It stars Harrison Ford. Bradley Whitford was in the film, only briefly. I really wish he'd have had a bigger role. Even the smallest part that he had was so charming. I really enjoyed it. There was another actor, Omar Sy, was really good. Kara G. And Terry Notary played Buck. He motion capture. Buck is the name of the dog that's in the movie. And this was based on a book by Jack London written in 1903, and it's been in print every year, I think, since 1903. And it's just a really, really good tale of a dog who is basically, he's been mistreated, or basically he had a loving home, but he kept destroying things. Stealing food, wrecking parties that had full spreads of food and things like that. And so one night he's put out on the porch and by Bradley Whitford's character, and he says, this is your punishment. You're out on the porch. And this wasn't the first time that Buck had been out there. Well, he gets dog napped and shipped to the Yukon, Alaska area, where everybody's out, trying to find gold. And basically, the dog is a fish out of water and has to learn how to live in the snow and all the elements. And then Omar Sy is a mail carrier who has a dog team sled, and Kara G is on the dog sled with him, and they run these routes, 500-mile routes, delivering mail. And then at some point in the movie or the book, they kill the mail route, so Buck gets once again cast aside and has to find someone else. And he finds in a series of circumstances where he's purchased by an evil guy who wants to go find gold. He winds up becoming free by Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford adopts him, and they go off on an adventure together. Now, a lot of people were a little bit like, because the dog was CGI. They did have a dog there that looked like Buck that was a stand-in for lighting and things like that. That was actually adopted from a shelter, much like Lady and the Tramp, where they found Tramp in a shelter and kind of made him a movie star. And the whole movie was just a lot of fun. After the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie where you see Buck as this animated dog, you kind of forget that, like, he's an animated dog. You buy into the story and you buy into everything. Everything was so beautiful. The movie had like $109 million budget, maybe $135 million after marketing, and it's pulled in like $60 million, I think, opening weekend. So pretty good stuff. Harrison Ford has this great relationship with the dog, and he's out in the wilderness because his son had passed away, little baby, or 3-year-old, 5-year-old, maybe something like that. And he could never make it work with his wife after that. They both their marriage fell apart, and he was trying to find himself. So he went off into the Yukon as well. And so in a way, Buck helped bring Harrison Ford's character back to life again and made him believe in something. But again, like I normally don't go to dog movies because the dog always dies. Okay. Whether I didn't see Marley and Me because I heard the dog died and everybody cried. There was this other one that just came out a little while ago, with Kevin Costner narrating, where the dog like loved race car driving and stuff. I can't remember the name of it, but I didn't go to that because I heard that the dog died in that too. And like, I have a dog and I just know it's heart wrenching. So I can't watch movies where the dog died, but I was prepared going into this because I did not read The Call of the Wild, the original book that came out in 1903. I did not read the Jack London book. So I just assumed the dog was going to die. And I was like, I just got to go into this with this mindset that the dog's going to die. But the dog doesn't die. Spoiler alert. But this whole thing is kind of a spoiler. So I've been kind of talking all around. But I will say this is a big spoiler. But if you've read the book, you know this already. Harrison Ford's character, he does die. And so I watched it and I was like, oh man, and the way he died was very sad, but you know, it is what it is. The dog had to move on, and anyway, the dog wind up hanging out with a pack of wolves and then going off into the wilderness with wolves and became the head of their pack and was the pack leader. And then the wolves became hybrid, dogs after that, because he's not a wolf. Buck's not a wolf. He's like some sort of Siberian, not a Siberian husky. What's that one dog with anyway, doesn't matter. You've seen all the pictures and the photos of the dog. But anyway, Harrison Ford's character died, and it made me think that Harrison Ford, in his 45-year, 50-year history of being in films, I guess, because he got in I guess his big break came in American Graffiti, and he was already 33 at that point. So if he's 77, yeah, his 40 years in the business, 40 years plus. He's only died on screen 3 times. The Mosquito Coast, The Force Awakens, Star Wars, the Force Awakens, and now Buck, or not Buck, Call of the Wild. And so it's just interesting that it seems like every 10 or 15 years he picks a film where, he dies. I don't know. It's just weird. So it's very odd to see Harrison Ford die on screen. It's one of those things that you're like, oh God, Harrison's dead. And I hope, obviously I don't think they're going to kill him, and that he's getting ready to do the next Indiana Jones film, Indiana Jones 5, and he's 77. They start shooting in a few months, according to him. And I would love for it to be like his Logan, where he goes out and, they kind of put an end to it. But the Indiana Jones Chronicles are considered canon, and so he does go on to be an old man with an eye patch. So maybe in the end of the next movie, he's got an eye patch. That being said, Harrison Ford does die. The dog is fantastic in this. The reason they went with CGI was probably because all the dangerous stuff the dog had to do in this movie just couldn't been done with an animal, or taking an animal up to the Yukon in the snow, avalanches, all sorts of stuff that went on, getting trapped under ice, and in a river under ice. And you just can't do this stuff with a real dog. And so it's nice to see that they are kind of getting away when you look at the Lion King animated, the CGI animated, and you look at, Dumbo and everything they're doing now with these CG remakes. And The Lady and the Tramp is a good example. Although they did use live dogs, they did replace them in scenes because they talked and did things like that. They're getting away from using animals, and the technology is getting so photorealistic. And now he was a little more animated, Buck, in Call of the Wild, but he still did some cool side-eye stuff that you'll feel familiar with, that you've seen other dogs do. I know my dog gives me side-eye all the time. Anyway, this is just a fun movie. Go into it, have fun, suspend belief, enjoy the tale. I've heard it's not like the book so much. They took some liberties and stuff, but of course they would. But anyway, it's a good film. Harrison Ford does narration throughout. So all the time when Buck's doing his thing and running around, and Harrison Ford's not even in the movie yet, he comes in the almost the third act. Buck is story being told as if someone's reading the book. And it reminded me of Blade Runner, the theatrical version that came out in the theater, where there was narration. And it was just nice to hear Harrison Ford's voice throughout the film. So I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's a great adventure story about finding yourself and what makes you happy, and how with some animals, there's the call of the wild that brings them to where they need to be. And that's the whole essence of the book and the movie. So I enjoyed it. Did you guys see it? What did you think? Let's talk about it in the comments section, and we'll see you on the next one.